YouTube, I'm the Bearded Brother, and today on Gunplay TV, we're taking a look at the Holosun HE530G RD Red Dot. So aside from the long name, this is one of the harder to get your hands on Holosuns, and so we're going to break this open and take a look at this here today on the channel. If you're not already subscribed, I'd ask that you pause this video now, scroll down, take a look for that subscribe button, and once you found it, go ahead and give that a click for me. I do appreciate it. And without further ado, let's get straight into the video.
Reach for the sky.
Alright guys, so the Holosun HE530G. Alright, so I'm just going to call it the 530G or the 530 going forward. Okay, and so the 530, that 30 in the 530 name, of course, is in reference to the fact that this is a 30mm optical sight, of course. And then the G there in the nomenclature, they do have a version, the 530C, which will have a solar panel up top, similar to one of my favorite optics of all time, this Trijicon SRS. Okay, and so we're gonna go ahead and break this open. We'll see what's in the box. Now, this is one of the Holosun Elite models, and so what that typically means is you either get one of Holosun's super LED green reticles, or you get titanium. Now, this is one of the optics that's offered in both, right? And so when you get an Elite 530, right, you kind of get an option of both of those elite features, right? This is a titanium housed optic, and we can kind of see that right off the bat. So no aluminum in the construction on this guy, right? Full titanium construction all the way around, so very robust. And of course, right, this being the RD model, denoted there on the side, this is the red dot variant. They do have a green dot variant. I tried to get my hands on that, wasn't able to, guys, and so what I've got here today is the red one. And of course, we can see there is no solar panel up top. And so for now, I'm gonna put this to the side and we'll see what else is in the box here in a bit. And we'll just take a look at the optic here for a second, right? And so it is pretty hefty, right? It's a solid red dot. You do get flip down lens covers. And what's nice about these, right off the bat, you can see these are glass lens caps, all right? And so you can, in theory, right, keep these up until they're banged up beyond use, and never really expose the lenses underneath until you absolutely have to, right? Now, as I mentioned, this is the G model of the 530, and so we do have a side-mounted battery, and this is going to take the CR2032 battery. We've got one of those in the box. Now in the box, of course, they do include an Energizer 2032 3-volt battery. I've got sitting around one of the Energizer Ultimate Lithiums. This is one of the Japanese made ones. No big deal. I just typically like to use my own batteries whenever I get a new optic. So I'm gonna slap that in there, right? It sits in quite nice and easy there on the side. And then of course, right, kind of toolless operation as far as changing that battery. That's one thing that I liked about this version over the solar version. Of course, having that solar panel up top means that your brightness operation has to be relocated to the side where the battery is now currently. So what they did with the solar version, instead of having this kind of side mount capped battery, what they did was kind of relocate that to a tray underneath where this battery currently is, and it's kind of a slide-in tray. It is made of plastic, which is something of a downside in my opinion, and furthermore, it does require tools to change. And so there's something to say about this model being a bit simpler and easier to use. Okay, and so now that we've got that battery in there, let's go ahead and twist this on together. I'm gonna flip down these caps, or the rear one at least, right?
A few moments later.
All right, guys, so I struggled a bit to get that turned on initially there, but we do have power, all right? And so one thing that's nice about these Holosuns as opposed to an EOTech or maybe even a Trijicon is the fact that you do have the ability to cycle between different reticles. And so we can see right now we kind of have the EOTech style circle dot, right, donut of death, if you will, with a 65 MOA circle around that 2 MOA red dot. Now, if I want to cycle between those reticles, as I mentioned before, I've got simple controls in order to do so, right? And so if I hold down this negative button or the brightness reduction button there for a few seconds, we'll see that it cycles just to the dot and then back to the circle dot arrangement, right? And so one thing about this one, right, you don't have the ability to just run the circle, which frankly to me on an optic like this is perfectly fine. I think I'm going to keep it for circle dot or in the circle dot configuration for now. Now, one other thing we'll look at here is the mount. Holosun has included their own QD mount. And frankly, this is one of the better mounts that I've seen from Holosun. Right off the bat, it is kind of a straight across bar mounting style, if you will, right? But one thing I do like is that they included these additional lugs that kind of stick out there on the bottom to help index against that rail, and that's going to help to ensure that you get better return to zero whenever you place this on your platform. Okay, and so you saw how I opened that up there on the side. There is kind of a QD engagement button, if you will, and when this is locked all the way down, it's kind of locked against that button, right, keeping you from bumping that or snagging that against your gear and stripping your optic off inadvertently, right? And so again, to take that off, you just kind of push that button down, flick it up, and you're in the game. Okay, and so what we'll do is I'm gonna go ahead and slap this on to our kind of workhorse upper here. And I've taken the Trijicon off for this purpose. And I'm gonna lay that on there, right? And I'm gonna work this QD lever down. It's a little loose for now. And of course, if I needed to tighten that, right, I do have an Allen key there in the back, which will allow me to kind of add some tension to the mount. Now, I'm not going to worry too much about that. I've actually got a new mount for this on the way, and we'll take a look at that here in the next video, so stay tuned for that if you're interested in how we can remount these. But right off the bat, right, pretty solid platform, right? Again, we've only got the upper today, right? No lower for the YouTube police, but it's very solid. One thing I do like about the titanium models is the fact that they do not have a painted on logo, right? This kind of etched into the titanium Holosun logo is a lot more subtle, and I think it looks a lot more professional, right? It doesn't quite scream, I bought this on Amazon. Now, frankly, I did in fact get this one on Amazon through the Bowtac store, okay? And so Bowtac had these on their site, they had them on their eBay page and on Amazon. And if you look right now, they are still there. Again, I'm not sponsored by Bowtac at all, but I do know that these optics were pretty hard to come by. And I lucked up and managed to get one new in box right off a good retailer's website. So there's that. Now we're back off of the rifle platform, and guys, I'm sorry if I'm kind of greasing up the optic. I do tend to cocoa butter up my hands before the video as to not be ashy for you guys. All right, and so again, as I mentioned, we're getting a full titanium housing. Of course, we do get this built-in quick release mount, okay? And of course, this is a co-witness mount right out of the box. Of course, I'm going to swap this for a low mount. We'll see that here in the next video. One thing that you do get with the Holosun optics, similar to the Sig Sauer optics at that, is the 50,000 hour battery life claim, okay? And so they get that one, right? The battery itself is not gonna drain too much off of these LED optics. And we see 2 to 5 year shelf life on these always on optics. It's quite common in the industry at the moment. One thing that kind of sets Holosun and some of their produced optics apart is the fact that they do have what I like to call the shake awake technology. And what that means is if I sit this here for about 2 minutes, that optic is going to cut off. Now, the moment that I nudge it or pick up that platform on which it's mounted, it's going to come back on and it's going to be ready to go at all times. And so what that essentially does is it's kind of like it's just a battery saving feature at the end of the day, right? We're keeping that battery off until we need it, and the moment that we do, you don't need to remember to cycle your battery up. It's going to come back on at the same brightness and in the same reticle pattern at which you left it. So for me, that's very nice, and that's a plus. Now, of course, you can get this in green as well, if that's your jam, okay? In addition to that, you can strip off these lens caps, and we'll see that included in the box with this unit is a pre-installed kill flash. And you see that, again, similar to my Trijicon SRS, I typically like to keep those kill flashes on. One, they help to protect the lens underneath from bigger objects that might bounce up towards your lens. And then, of course, right, there's the added benefit of killing that flash. And so what that means is, of course, if I was aiming this downrange at a bad guy, right, of course, you don't want that bad guy to get a bright lens glare reflection and kind of give away your position, similar to what you might see on Call of Duty or Battlefield, right? Now, those are artistic illustrations of a real world problem, but a kill flash helps to kind of hide that, and we can see that even at this angle, right? And so if you're at any angle other than dead center, which frankly, if you're at that angle, then, well, it's a bad day for you, right? You're gonna have a hard time seeing that reflection of the lens. And so we'll see as I tilt this back to dead center, now the lens reflection becomes available. But if you're looking at this scope downrange from any other angle than dead center, you're gonna have a hard time seeing that scope glare and getting a position signature off of that alone. And so that's the reason those are there. Of course, you can always take those off. Now, one other thing that I do like about the Holosun 530 series are the exposed and recessed turret caps. Now, as opposed to something that you might see on an Aimpoint or even another Holosun for that matter, typically you'll have a cap here, and that cap might have some tools with which you can adjust your zero and point of impact using those turret caps. I personally like having these be exposed. It's just quicker and easier to access, and of course this having a titanium housing means that these are still housed and protected by titanium. So frankly, I don't think you're giving up anything in the way of durability there. And even with these exposed caps, this optic has managed an IPX8 rating. Now, of course, that's not super military spec, if you ask me, right? We're not able to dive to 60 meters for 3 hours, at least not on paper. Now, with time, right, I'm sure that we'll see more people pick these up, torture test these, take these to the depth of the ocean, and maybe down the line, right, smaller units will begin to adopt Holosun optics, and we'll see for ourselves. But the fact that they were able to recess these turret caps, leave them exposed, and achieve that IPX8 waterproofing and dustproofing rating, to me is quite impressive. Now, one other thing that I'll say about this optic, and kind of just touching on a personal opinion before I get it out and go to the range, is what called me to this optic, right? I personally like the fact that we've got a smaller lens here on the rear and a larger lens here on the front. And actually, I'll strip these caps off once more. We can hopefully see that here. The lens on the rear is much smaller, or about 10 millimeters smaller, I should say, than on the front. Okay, and so what that is, and it's similar, right, to our SRS here, right? Smaller lens on the rear, much larger lens on the front. Of course, this SRS was the predecessor to the Trijicon MRO, all right? And we see that same kind of style construction in the MRO. And so this, in my mind at least, is kind of Holosun's answer to the MRO, right? And so in one way or another, this is kind of the grandfather to this optic. And I do very much like the ability to have an optic that has a smaller lens here in the rear and a much larger lens kind of at the front end. Reason being is, as you look through that optic, it's going to kind of eliminate the tunneling or the tunnel vision kind of side effect, if you will, that you get through some of the smaller 20 millimeter optics, right? You know, your Aimpoints, your Sig Sauer Romeo style optics. Those are very small, very tight windowed optics, and you do kind of feel like you're looking through a tunnel at times. That's not a problem, you know, for real world operators, and it's certainly something that you can train through. But this just kind of having a quicker sight picture, one, because you've got a wider window, and then two, eliminating that tunneling effect is quite nice, right? And so that's what called me to the 530 series. It's a bit different from the other Holosuns. Again, not a whole lot of full titanium housed Holosuns out there. And then that being said, right, this one is particularly harder to come by. And so head on down to Bowtech if you guys are looking at one of these. I'm gonna go ahead and throw this onto the platform, and we're gonna get some video for you guys. And stay tuned for the next one, wherein we're gonna talk about the mount. All right, and that pretty much wraps it up for this one in the Holosun 530G. All in all, this is a solid titanium optic, and I think you're gonna be hard pressed to beat this for the price, which comes in at around $500 after shipping and taxes. At least that's what I paid. Of course, the Holosun MSRP is gonna be a bit higher at closer to $550. With all that being said, I'm gonna go ahead and get up out of here. I'm the Bitter Brother.